All right, good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? It's Dr. Cinta, and we are ready to hit Facebook Live Sugar Challenge Midway check. Let's do it. This is one of the hardest things to overcome in the weight loss world is just the addiction with sugar, and I'm really excited to be able to pick up where we left off from a couple weeks ago, where we talked about sugar and all the different things that are associated with it. And sorry, I had to, I have to open my drink or I'll die. And just how nefarious it has been with the agriculture and sugar policies that have led to the obesity epidemic today. So let me say hello, Sherry. How are you? So nice to see you. Hey, Cindy. I made it. I wasn't quite sure, but I did. Hallelujah. Yay. We're going to have a good time tonight. And we'll wait a second or two for other people to get on board. But just in case you didn't know, if you're just stopping in for the first time, we are in the middle of a sugar, or you could call it a no sugar challenge or a minimize sugar challenge. The point is to really get control over sugar so that it doesn't have control over you. So hi, Lena. Nice to see you. And today we're going to do the check-in and just sort of see where how everybody's doing. This is the midway point of a 4-week challenge. And the goal of a challenge is not to, do anything too crazy, but just really to be able to look at the issue, because sugar is the issue I hear about all the time in the office, particularly lately. After the holidays, it's always hard because we're inundated with that. So the months of January to March are really people kind of like trying to wean off of sugar, alcohol, all the things that snuck in during the holidays that you want to get rid of to be healthy. Oh, thank you, Cindy. If only you saw, well, if only you saw 10 minutes ago, you wouldn't be saying that. So anyhow, great to see everybody. So let's just get going and we'll recap, and whoever joins. And what I want to do first of all is just sort of talk about what this is, this no sugar challenge, and what we did the last time we were all together. So last time we were together was a couple weeks ago, and what we did during that time is just sort of talk about, how did the sugar craves come to be? When we were, everybody likes sugar. All you have to do is look at a 2-year-old with a lollipop and you know that, they think it's yummy and they want more, right? So we know just based on that it's something that, humans tend to like, and that it's pretty addicting. It's kind of hard to stay away from. So one of the things we talked about last time was the sugar craze in general and how it came to be, its relationship with agriculture, and how, the whole obesity epidemic got so much worse when we started to really focus on corn production and not so much on a diversified economy with a diversified agriculture, which used to mean like we would grow everything in the U.S. and then we would just eat locally. That all ended when we started to go corn only. And it was connected to high fructose corn syrup, which made the way into the shelves at the same time that the low-fat revolution started, which has been debunked. But if you look in the, if you go shopping now, you'll still see low-fat stuff. So, I think you see a lot of diverse things in the supermarkets, which can make you very confused about a lot of things. Do I go low salt? Do I go low sugar? Do I go gluten-free? Do I watch fat? Is fruit good? Is fruit not good? It is just a big ball of confusion right now. So one of the things, is, at least in terms of sugar, that we wanted to straighten up was all the myths associated with that. We also talked about the fact that sugar has found its way into everything, and that it's being kind of snuck in there under various names. And in fact, there's 120 different names for the sugar that's snuck into the products and foods that we eat. So that's another thing. So nefarious stuff going on indeed. And, we also talked about how hard high fructose corn syrup is to metabolize. It's not a natural thing for our body. The extra fructose gets stored in fat cells, which leads to a crisis in the turning on of fat cells to make them an endocrine organ that, they probably always were, but only when they're irritated do we really see them come out and cause disease. So more fat equals more disease, right? And then we talked about addiction and, the fact that sugar is addictive. And, if you look at your family history, you can kind of get a sense of whether you are prone to addictions, if you have addictions in your family to other things like alcohol, drugs, gambling, etc. then chances are that that same dopamine receptor in your brain is going to be more sensitive to addictions associated with sugar. Sherry says, mindful with ingredient sugar, still do some sugar-free stuff, but not bad. Not tempted by Easter candy. Oh man, I will tell you, Sherry, Easter candy is my nemesis. This is the season of Wendy eating bags of things if she lets herself get her hands on them, because there's so many things that trigger me with Easter candy. So I'm very proud of you. I don't bring it in my house anymore. I don't have any little people that I have to, have it in there for. So I stopped making the excuse that I need it for somebody, because if it's in there, it's for me and not for anyone else. But I'm very happy to see that, Sherry. So anyhow, yeah, and we got into that, and then we also talked about ways you get rid of sugar, or ways you could wean off. And we talked about cold turkey and using substitutions. We even did an Instagram post on that, different kind of substitutions you could use. Hopefully you found that helpful. We talked about the 3-bite rule, right? You can have 3 bites of anything as long as it's not a trigger food for you, and you can't stop. So that's another way that you can deal with sugar. And then we talked about natural sugars like fruit. And I don't think, I'm wasting my time saying once again on this broadcast that fruit and sugar is okay. It's a natural source. It comes with fiber. It comes with pith. It comes with phytonutrients that are, in the white part of the fruit, and right on the outside of the skin, or inside of the skin. So those things are, make it natural and also make it slowly absorbed. So sugar as a whole, depending on where you're getting it from, has a lot of different extremes to it, but natural is the best. And we like sweet, right? I mean, it's part of one of our senses in our tongue: savory, sweet, sour, and salty. So it's not something that we're not supposed to have, but we're just supposed to have the right amount in the right ways. So fruit, if you're not on a low carb diet, is okay. It's not the enemy. It never has been. Things that are put on this earth, that are in your yard, that are in your garden, that come from above, are not bad for you, generally. Okay? So, hi Andrea, how are you? So there we go. I made my point on fruit. All right, so now we've started the sugar challenge, the no sugar challenge. In today's check-in time, it's the 2-week mark. So I want to just sort of start by seeing how everybody is doing. So for those of you who have been involved in the No Sugar Challenge, tell me how you're doing. Tell me if you've run into anything. Tracy, hi, it's nice to see you. Thank you for joining, girl. Let me know if you've had any luck, if you've had issues, if you've struggled, and what you've struggled with. Today, I want to just keep it light and really focus on problem solving this on an individual basis for the folks that are on here. And then we can also talk kind of globally about some strategies. So let's try to do the best we can to help each other out today. Yes, you finally caught me live. Hallelujah. All right, so while we're waiting for people to add their comments, I'm just going to say that I will kind of share some things with you guys that I've seen in the last 2 weeks in my office. And I think it's generally agreed that, getting off of sugar, once you're off it, most of us do pretty well at staying off it, because when it's not constantly hitting those dopamine receptors, it's much easier to push it away or to stay away. But it is also agreed that it just takes, for a lot of people, just a teeny bite of something. I've heard the story over and over again. I just had a little bit of, X, and all of a sudden it started the wave again. And now here I am riding the sugar wave and I can't get off. So not hard to necessarily stay off, but it's easy to relapse, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So we have to be so careful, and we have to plan ahead and help ourselves when we're going through periods where we're vulnerable, like we're going to a party, or we have a birthday or a special event or a vacation. All those things are things we need to prepare for. So I'd like to talk about that today too. So Elena says, I've struggled in the beginning. Oh, hang on one sec. Let me go back here. Struggled in the beginning, but making my own sugar-free desserts with fruit has helped. Yes, I love that idea. So I'm a big, if you're ever doing a low carb plan, in which you can't really have too many carbs at all, sugar is really, really hard. Stevia, some of the more natural sweeteners in small quantities. Some people get headaches, some people have allergies, etc. But in small quantities are a good thing. They're natural. And they can be very, very useful to help with sugar cravings. We talked also about diet drinks. All right, so this is very well disguised, but it's a Diet Pepsi, I will tell you. Um, and I have one a day, not every day, some days. And to me, it helps me keep going, and it takes care of my sweet fix in the middle of the day when I'm working hard seeing a million patients. So one a day is fine. And the key is to, obviously you want water first, right? So I have both, but if you need something to kind of give you a pick me up or to help you with the sweetness, they have found that diet sodas in particular, or diet drinks, as long as you limit it to one or two a day, are fine. Okay, very equivocal with, does it cause weight gain? Does it cause weight loss? I think in general we see more weight loss because you're not going after the other stuff. Okay, so let's see. Got more stories over here. So Erica, stop cold turkey. That's really hard. Some days are really hard for me, but I feel better overall. Absolutely. I think something you'll notice is once you get off of sugar, okay, so here's something I noticed. Maybe you guys can comment too. I just feel like all my inflammation goes away within like 1 or 2 days. And my thoughts are clear. I'm not tired. I'm not grumpy and irritated, Things just kind of flow better throughout the day. And it makes a big difference. And I sleep better. I'm in a better mood. All those kind of things that we talked about last time are made better by it. So, but stopping cold turkey is hard. You have to be really, really tough to stop cold turkey, and you have to know, as we said last time, to be able to replace your salt, your sodium, because you can have a huge, what's called osmotic diuresis, where you're just getting rid of so much fluid that you actually need to increase your salt to kind of balance it out. So that is that's something that makes it easier to go cold turkey. And I don't know if you know that, Erica, but I'm super proud of you for doing it, because that's very, very hard, and you got to be really strong to do that. Cindy says, one day I was really hungry and there was nothing in the house, so I reached for some dark chocolate. I ate more than I should, not the whole bar, but it definitely took the edge off. Am I making that up? No, absolutely not. So I think we had talked about the last time how dark chocolate. So a lot of times chocolate's just so good. I'm sorry. You have to be dead to not think chocolate is good, in my opinion. But chocolate is something that almost all of us, love. It hits the pleasure centers and hits the dopamine response and increases serotonin. So there's so many reasons why we like it. But also it is something that can also be very devastating if you choose the wrong kind. I find that people who do milk chocolate, where you've got that fat, salt, sugar combo that is perfectly in combination, tend to hit the addiction centers much more than if you choose something like dark chocolate, like Cynthia did, and just have a little bit of it, so it kind of quells that food noise, as we call it, but also takes care of the craving. So dark chocolate is great. The higher you go, the more bitter. If you find something in like the 70% area, it usually does a great job of taking care of the craving without making you eat too much. So now I will tell you for sure with me that I am not trustworthy in the midst of any milk chocolate whatsoever, and especially the European chocolates, like Danish chocolate and everything coming from Switzerland. Forget it. I'm just toast. So I try to stay away from those except for the holidays. So okay, that was good. Thank you for that feedback, Cynthia. Yes, I have been so much more productive, Elena says, and focused since I reduced sugar. 100% on that one. 100%. When you are having sugar, especially if you're starting the day with it. So say you have like, I don't know, muffin or something for breakfast, or you have pancakes with syrup. You're going to be good for like an hour. And I think we talked about this last time. The fatigue starts to set in within like 30 minutes. The hypoglycemia within 60, because most of us kind of hit it with our insulin response. If your insulin resistance much worse, and then you crash. So what are you going to look for then? You're going to look for more sugar to bring you back up to where you were. And all day long, you're going to be doing this, right? If you start the day with something like eggs, and have some meat with that, some turkey bacon or whatever, you're going to feel really good. You're going to be full. Your brain's going to work as it should, and you're not going to have to worry too much about that riding the wave. So I think a lot of us see that. That's good. Thank you for that. And brain fog too. Yes, Sherry. Absolutely. I mean, and all you got to do is try it for a week. Just for a week. Just change your breakfast. I went through this with one of my patients this week. She didn't even know she was doing it. She was kind of going back to like eating muffins and stuff in the morning. Something had changed at work. I'm like, go back to your eggs. See how you do. And when I saw her back, she's just like, oh my God, it just changed everything. I had so much less carbs and sugar throughout the day because I started with protein. I wanted to continue with protein. When you eat protein all day, your sugars are like this. You don't play that game. So you have much more control over your day and how your body works. So, oh, I'm so glad to hear that, Erica. That's awesome. So glad to hear that. Cynthia said, I also find my energy is more balanced throughout the day without sugar. There is no question that is the case. Our bodies were not meant to run just on glucose. We're omnivores, right? So we're meant to eat protein. We're meant to eat vegetables. We're meant to eat fruits. We're meant to eat all sorts of things out there. Breads came later, like 10,000 years ago, but even then they were more, they were hard grains and they had like all the fiber and all the endosperm, they call it, and all these other components that made it better for us. So the stuff we have now is it's not even really grains. It is sugar. If you take a piece of bread, white bread, sourdough bread, whatever, and you stick it in your mouth for about 5 seconds, you'll taste the sugar within like 5 to 10 seconds. And that's how quickly it gets broken down by salivary amylase in your body. So to me, when I think of sugar, many people don't think of bread as sugar, but as soon as I have bread, I go to sugar. I immediately want chocolate. It's such a weird thing for me. But we have to identify the things that get us there too, so that we can prevent having them creep in. So, all right. Awesome. Wow. Awesome feedback so far. So let's talk about, ways to kind of, counter this in the midst of our challenge, because it is very easy for something to kind of start tapping on our brain, oh, wouldn't that be good? Oh, that place is right around the corner. I could just go sneak and get one little munchkin. Nobody eats one munchkin. Come on, don't fool yourself. Just get one or I'll just have a bite. So we have to be able to, really, really keep check on that and make sure that we don't undo all the hard work we did to get ourselves off of it. That is a really important message that we all need to kind of keep in the back of our minds. So when I talk to people about sugar, hang on one sec. What I think about is like an open and closing door. All right. I don't know a single person on this earth that is not like a little kid, for example, that can open the door to sugar, eat it all day long, and not have consequences. Okay. So we do have to have a relationship with it. And the relationship is not all, it can be nothing, but not all. So what I consider it like is, taking a door and kind of opening it to the sugar and then closing it and moving on our day. Okay. So what I tell people is you have to figure out like how much you open that door and in what circumstances, and you have to close it quickly and make sure it doesn't stay open so that it just gets, you get into that perpetual cycle again where the sugar is running you and you're not controlling it. So think about it like a door that you open. And then you really have to identify your relationship. What's it going to be like, and how are you going to prepare for the week ahead? So, okay, for me, here's what I try to do, and I am by no means perfect. But what I try to do is during the week, I follow a very, consistent diet when I'm working. I follow a lot of the programs that we put people on. And then I come home at night, I'll have, dinner, probably too late because, I work late. And then have a little sweet thing before I go to bed. And, but it's little and it's controlled. Weekends are where, all of us struggle, that your whole pattern, comes off. And so on weekends, if I go out, I have to be careful. I like dessert, I like to have a glass of wine. I like to have an appetizer. I like, food, and I like to have a taste of a dessert. I don't need a lot. I can do 1 or 2 bites, but I like to have that thing at the end. So my opening and closing is during the week, if I open the door, it's very, very little. And if the weekend comes, I really have to consciously prepare. Okay, we're going to go to this restaurant. This is what they have. My husband will tell you I always go for something chocolate. It doesn't matter what's on the menu. But I will have like 1 or 2 bites, and then I'll usually be in pretty good control for the most part. Again, there's things that get me going. And then that's going to go home. And then, as Brian says, I'll see you next Tuesday when I throw you in the garbage. He says it to every dessert I bring home because it usually stays in the back of the fridge and stuff. But the bottom line is I'm not saying that's the right way, but that's my way. So we all have to come up with that, how much we're going to open the door and close the door. For a lot of people, it's, special occasions, weddings, vacations, birthdays, those kind of things, allow yourself to have some, but just know how much, know what your trigger foods are, and close that door right away. Okay, you cannot leave that door open. It will start to control you again. Okay, so that is the way that I like to look at it, and I hope that's helpful to you. Okay, now there's things that you can do if you do get stuck, if you do start to struggle. Some are behavioral techniques, which we're going to go over, and others are, medications that can be used if you really, really have a big problem with addiction. And in our practice, we have a lot of folks who really struggle with sugar, men and women alike. So this is something we keep a close eye on. All right, behaviorally, here's a few tips. Number 1, don't drive past your vulnerable places. Okay, so I have this one patient who's a school bus driver, and she drives a route, but she has control over that route. There's actually a little square, and she could go this way on the square and avoid the Dunkin' Donuts, or she could go straight and hit the Dunkin' Donuts. So she literally has a point where she has to make a decision left or right. It's not even like proverbial. It is a point. So when she goes right, she gets some, a very like sugary coffee drink and then her whole day shot. If she goes left, she has a good day. So the point is, if there's places that you're very vulnerable to, that are on the way home or on the way to work, or that you're going to pass them when you're shopping or something like that, go a different way. That will help you so much. So you can avoid it just by going a different way. And along those same lines, keep this stuff out of your vision, your sight of vision around the office or throughout the day as well. And, Brian Wansink did a beautiful book about, cues that we get in our brain and, how many times do we have to see something before we eat it. And I'll just share this study with you because it's kind of fun. It's called the Hershey Kiss study. So they put Hershey Kisses like over by the bathroom in one sense, by a little bit closer, like where the copier was at that time, and then on the person's desk, and they monitored how much they ate. So when they had to go, go further, they walked past it, but not as often. Obviously, they would have like, 1 or 2, a small number. As it got closer to them, they would have more. And by the time it was on their desk, it was, for many people, just like a constant eating of it. So remember the visual cues part and try to keep it out of your sight. All right. When you're going to work, bring good substitutions to work. So something that can work if people are always bringing in cookies and muffins or something like that, bring a bar in, cut it up into little pieces, put it in your pocket or put it in something cute and just eat that while everybody else is eating. Drink your water, eat that, grab a cup of coffee, whatever. Nobody needs to know what you're eating. At least you're part of the celebration or the socializing at that time. So you can do something like that as well. Something that's very important is just planning out your day. Okay, so before you go to work in the morning, even if you're working from home, just look at your day from beginning to end and say, okay, is there some place in here where I could potentially be vulnerable to eating something I don't want to eat? I mean, the whole statement about planning to fail is failing to, how do they say it? Wait, failing to plan is planning to fail, right? So plan your day, plan what you're going to eat. And if you're going out or doing something like that, look at the menu, stay ahead of it, know what you're going to have, and have hard nose when you're there about changing that direction that you've set for yourself. Okay. Next is, we already talked about this, like out of sight, out of mind. Keep it out of your line of vision. Super important to do that. Develop a pattern with your eating. Okay. There are some things that make you vulnerable to going after sugar. One is if your sugar's low. So don't meal skip. Don't go long periods of time throughout the day And then, and then say, oh my God, I'm tired. I got to go get something. And, first thing you're going to go for, you're not going to go get broccoli. You're not going to go get chicken. You're going to get glucose because your glucose is low. That's what your brain's going to tell you to do, and that's what you're going to do. So don't allow yourself to be vulnerable to it. Eat very regularly and develop a habit of doing that. So consistent throughout the day. Focus on your protein. Keep your water high. That really helps too. And plan ahead for events, as we mentioned as well. Okay. Ladies, when you know your menstrual cycle's coming, for those of you that are still menstruating, plan for it. We know what happens a couple days before. You're going to get carb and sugar cravings. It all has to do with the estrogen, progesterone drops. And plan ahead for it. So we're going to talk about a couple things you can do, like chromium, to be prepared and ready so that you're not going off, getting yourself out of control for a day or two and then regretting it. All right. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to try to be real nice. Watch out for serotonin sucking days. Okay, so we know what they are. So days in, if you're in upstate New York where it is dark out, it is cold out, you may go a couple of days without seeing the sun at all, sometimes a week around here, and the sun gives you serotonin. So if you have a day like that, be prepared, stay ahead of it, and do the best you can to not let that take over for you. Okay, don't respond to that serotonin. Do other things to distract yourself, exercise, listen to good music, meditate, read a good book, but don't go to the food for that serotonin fix that you're not getting. This is the same with serotonin sucking people. All right, so if you have people that are in your life, we all have them, who are constantly, needing you and kind of, soul suckers, as some people call them, but just constantly pulling at you, stressing you out. It could be a boss, it could be a child, whatever. What happens is your serotonin gets lower and lower and lower, and finally you're so vulnerable because you're just at that place of emotional stress or whatever, or exhaustion, that you will go for something that is often, either carbohydrate or sugar or something that's going to bring that back up. So anyhow, watch for those things. Okay, so those are my tips for what you can do behaviorally to stay ahead of it. Now I am so missing some questions here, so let me go back. So Elena said, it's comforting to know that you also eat dessert. Yes, I do. And sometimes it's not just a little, Elena. but what I also do is I am very good. I do weigh myself frequently because I can't be the fat doctor. My business will close. We've already established that. And I do start documenting, and I make changes quickly as I can to reverse it. So I know where I want my weight to be, and I try to reverse it that way. But I'm not gonna lie, Jennifer will tell you she works with me. I mean, I like sugar. I do. I'm human. So we all have to be careful and know what our limits are. Let's see here. So Sherry says, I remind myself that sugary trigger foods may be delicious, but not worth losing my toes. Oh my gosh, absolutely. You're so right about that. They are my museum foods. I like that. I can say that looks great for me, but look, but don't touch. That thought helps me when I get around, when I must be around this stuff. I like that. I think anything that you can do to kind of take it out of that part of your brain that's, we call it the lizard part, the addiction part, and put it in the cortex where you're thinking and you can actually establish, a pathway that doesn't involve the sugar, you should do it, okay? It's when we respond to that impulse from the dopamine receptors that we get ourselves in trouble. How should we take chromium? Okay, so let's talk about that. So with chromium, what you want to do is, some days we all have weak moments. Thank you, Jennifer. That's so true. Like yesterday when the cake was there for our employee who got married. Like those are that's hard. You just gotta walk away and try not to look when you're going to the bathroom, that kind of thing. Chromium. So chromium picolinate is a wonderful mineral that you can get over the counter. We have it on our website. Our Metagenics website makes a very inexpensive, very good chromium product that you can take 1 to 3 times a day with meals, okay? When you're hard into the sugar, I tell people take it 3 days a week with meals and don't stop. It will help the sugar cravings and it will help the insulin response to the sugar. So chromium picolinate, 200 micrograms, 1 to 3 times a day will help get you out of it. And then once you're out of it, keep it around, because if you start to sneak back into it, you might want to take it once a week for maintenance or once or twice a week for maintenance. Thank you for putting that up. There's a link to our chromium right there in the chat. Okay, so that is that. I love this because it's just so benign and it does work really well. Okay, and while we're on the subject of that, let's just talk about other medications that help with cravings. These need to be prescribed, but they all work very well. All right, now, behavioral techniques that we talked about work for many, many people, but if you have a very, very sensitive dopamine response to things, family history of addictions, that kind of thing, then you need to step it up further. So we usually start with chromium. The next step would be something like, I don't know if you've heard of topiramate or Topamax. It's a medication that was originally created for seizure disorders in children, and then it was used for migraine headaches, and then other neurological things, pain. And what they found is it actually hits the dopamine receptors and helps with addiction. So, and it's what we love about this particular drug is it's very cheap. So we can write it for anybody, even if their insurance doesn't cover it. It's only a couple of bucks to pay cash for. So topiramate or Topamax, you can dose 50 milligrams at night, and then kind of work it towards the dinner hour after that, and then up to 50 milligrams once a day, twice a day, and then eventually you go up by 50. You can do 50 and 100, 100 and 100, all the way up to 200 milligrams twice a day. So it's a great drug. It works in such a wonderful way. The side effects are, you got to go up on it slowly, because the higher you go, there is a carbonic anhydrase response with your brain that can, make it harder for word finding and stuff like that. I do find that if we take it up slowly, many people, I have surgeons, I have lawyers that are on the 200 milligram twice a day dose that do fine, but you just have to dose it up slowly. Some people love it. Some people feel it just makes them too tired, but it really does work very well for a lot of people. Hi, Tiana. How are you? I hope I'm saying your name right. Tina. It's Tina with an A, right? Nice to see you. Welcome. We're having a good time talking about sugar. So we've got chromium, we've got topiramate. One of the newer ones on the block that we've always known as an ADD drug is Vyvanse. Oh my gosh, lisdexamfetamine, I believe it's called. Jen can help me with that one because I can't remember the generic, but it's something like a lisdexamfetamine, I think is what it is. But either way, it's a medication used for ADD, brand named Vyvanse, that is taken once a day, can be used with phentermine, which we use for hunger sometimes, and it hits the dopamine receptors in such an extraordinary way that many people can get control of cravings and binge eating that they never had control over, and it's only once a day dosing, which is so great. Tina Black, okay. I never saw your name spelled that way. Nice to see you. Welcome aboard. All right. So anyhow, so that's the other one, Vyvanse. So Vyvanse is dosed 20 milligrams a day in the morning, of course, because it's activating, all the way up to 70 milligrams a day. And it works very, very well. It used to be kind of cost prohibitive because they only had the brand, but now they have a generic. So if you can get it, as with many drugs, we have trouble getting some of these days, which is very concerning. But if you can get the generic, it's relatively reasonably priced and it works great. All right. Okay, and then there's one more that you may have heard about. It's called naltrexone, and there was a drug that's still out actually called, oh my gosh, give me a second, Contrave, which is Wellbutrin with naltrexone in it. It's a weight loss drug that works well because it kind of gives you a lift to your mood with the Wellbutrin, which Wellbutrin can also help appetite, and then the naltrexone helps cravings. And it works very, very well. Naltrexone is used to get people off of alcohol and other things. It works very well for cravings too. Big problem with naltrexone is, number one, you can't be on any opioids when you take it. any, you can be on Tylenol, but no, no opioid pain medications. And then the second thing is it does cause a lot of nausea. So it's one of those drugs that's kind of hard for people to use regularly, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Thank you, John. See, that's why I had so much trouble with it. Liz, Dex, amphetamine, dimisolate. There you go. Thank you so much. Close enough. Close but no cigar, right? So anyhow, that's that. So those are the main medications. Now let's just talk about, the thing that I see the most, and we're going to wrap it up here soon. And that is, a tiny little deviation from the plan causes you to fall off. You fall off, you binge. You binge, you develop this, kind of self-loathing, like I can never do this right. I'm a failure. And then with that, you kind of start to just give up and stop even fighting the battle. Okay? So we have to work really hard to get ourselves off of that tumultuous pathway of using sugar sometimes to help us emotionally, overeating it, self-loathing, and then feeling like a failure. Okay? And the way that you do that is if you do mess up, you find a way to prevent that from happening in the future, and you acknowledge the fact that we all mess up, and there are ways and techniques that with repetition will keep you from making those same mistakes. Okay, so we actually have a handout that is available, and I think we're gonna put a link in the chat to help with this, and I want to go through this today if that's okay, real quick, because to me, going through the things that made you mess up and coming up with alternative strategies and then implementing those alternative strategies in the future is the best way to deal with sugar and other food addictions, okay? So thank you so much. There's a digital download in the chat now. If you want it, just click on it. I think you have to put your email in and they'll send it to you. And this is an example of the best way to conquer sugar addiction if you start to fall off plan. All right, so here's how you do it. The first thing is, and if you have something that you can write on or just want to put this in your phone, there's 6 categories that you want to focus on. Okay, number one is what was the trigger? You want to write down what the trigger is. So for example, the trigger could be, I was craving chocolate. So it was a chocolate craving that started the whole process, okay? The next thing is, what happened? Okay, so in this example, I bought a bag of chocolate kisses and ate them all right? So we've got the trigger, the event. Okay, what put me at risk for that? And in this particular case, PMS, which caught me by surprise, okay? So the PMS is a big deal for those out there who are menstruating. It is one of those things that can just hit you. You could be doing so well, and all of a sudden it hits you hard, and you sugar crave, you start eating oddly, you start sleeping oddly, and everything falls off track. You see your weight go up, So anyhow, that was the risk factor. And then how did you feel afterwards? This is really important because this is where we start to get into the emotions of, when you do mess up. And the feeling afterwards is always disappointment or, I screwed up, that kind of behavior. The next thing you should ask yourself is, okay, so that's how I felt then, but what could I have said to myself differently that would have been more positive? So this is where you put the alternate language. How could I have talked to myself differently in this case? Okay, so one way is you could say, I'm aware that this can happen and we'll be prepared the next time. And then the last step in the process is, okay, so you identified your trigger, you wrote down what happened, you looked at your risk factors, you noticed your feelings after, you came up with the alternate language. The next thing is, how could I have prevented it in the future? In this case, it was, I will start chromium picolinate 3 times a day during PMS to hopefully avoid it. Okay, so if you do this every time you have a mess up or you start to deviate off that pathway where you're doing well, you will find that you will get back on that pathway really quickly, and the whole sugar thing will start to become something of the past, okay? But you have to kind of look at where you went wrong, because usually if you make a mistake, it tends to be patterns in life that cause that. And as long as you identify those patterns, come up with an alternative strategy. So if it happens again, you start to recognize it, you can go back and say, what did I do last time? Oh, I could do this, and this worked. Documenting these things and keeping track of it can make a difference. We'll do one more. Okay, so I saw a TV commercial. So here's a trigger. I saw a TV commercial for McDonald's and I was really hungry at the time. Well, that's an easy one. Every time you're watching any kind of sports or whatever, tons and tons of nasty food coming in constantly to just kind of ping your brain about the food, right? So what happened? The event. Well, I binged on way too much fast food. What was the risk factor? I was bored watching TV alone and had not gone to the store. I'm starting to sense some idea of what we could do to prevent that in the future, right? How did you feel after? Disgusted with myself. Alternate language. I made a mistake, but I can prevent it next time by applying what I know. All right. Already you're ahead of the game when you start even just like saying these things out loud like that. And then the last thing is, how can you prevent it in the future? And the answer is, I will make sure that my fridge is full of healthy alternatives when I'm watching a game or something, so I can stick to my diet and avoid fast food altogether. All right. Now, this is something, if you keep doing it, you can use as your tool to go back to and say, I feel this coming on. I know I've been here before. What do I do? Go back to what worked for you in the past and implement it. And that is going to give you so much confidence that it'll keep you from messing up again. Okay, or going off plan. All right. So that is all I wanted to cover today. I have a couple questions. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. And we're about ready to cover up here. So, okay, these are both really good. I only have two. So number one is, all right, hang on. Good opportunity to drink some water. Drink your water. Good idea. You should have it near you all the time. So first question. I was walking past a donut shop. I thought I could have just one. Ate the whole box of Munchkins. What do I do now? Okay, so here's what you do. You do this, okay? So, what triggered you? What happened? What was your risk factor? How did you feel? How could you have spoken to yourself differently? And what can you do to prevent it the next time? Okay? So much of this is how we talk to ourselves, how we address ourselves during these kind of matters. And, knowing that everybody screws up and as long as you have a pathway forward, you're less likely to repeat it. Okay? So in this case, it kind of reminds me of the bus driver I was telling you about. Don't go past it. Go a different way. Grab a cup of coffee, go a different way, take a different route, come up with a way where it's not in your face when you're vulnerable. All right. The next one is, I'm doing great on my challenge, but I'm going on vacation next week. How do I plan ahead? All right. Well, I would love it if any of you guys wanted to throw some comments in here about what you recommended. I will tell you that what I tell people when they go on vacation is just do the best you can at maintaining, okay? Now, if you want some tips on that, yeah, especially if you're going on a cruise or something where there's so much food, I tell people bring some bars with you, If you got any powder shakes, bring those with you, pepper in fresh fruit and stuff like that they have, with you on the cruise, or that they serve in the morning for breakfast or whatever. But make it so that you only have a couple decisions to make, okay? So plan ahead with some things that you have that are your go-tos, and then you pepper in what's available. If you want to have a healthy dinner out, great, but don't make it don't make it a free-for-all. I have patients that go on cruises and they're like, well, I'm going on a cruise, so I'm just going to tell you next week's not going to be good. Well, no, that's the wrong way to do this. Why do you want to go gain 8 pounds that you have to lose again? Let's talk about how you can plan ahead and prevent that. All right. Oh, great, Tracy. So Tracy says, I think the download and a notebook is exactly what I need right now. I'm so glad I caught this today. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And it does work. I've been through this with lots of patients, and we will sometimes go through this together in the office, and it's super, super helpful. Yes, Tina, that's a good one. So increasing water intake, always a good idea. Remember that sometimes the chatter in our head, which we think is hunger, can be thirst. And, just drinking more water can make a big difference, okay? Having a little bit of protein can make a big difference, that kind of thing. Good advice. Thank you so much for that. All right. Well, my 15 to 30 minutes turned into 43 minutes, but hopefully this was helpful. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you guys have a great week ahead, what's left of it. And I do want to mention that Our next live is going to be at 5 o'clock, 2 weeks from today. So it's going to be April 10th at 5 p.m. We're going an hour earlier. And this one will really talk a lot about how to keep the sugar away for good. Okay, so learning all the things that you've learned today, implementing them, and developing a relationship with sugar that sticks forever. All right? All right, Rachel, nice to see you. All right, you guys have a great night, and I'll see you next week.